Hold tight everyone, I'm about to talk about a Souls game again. I first played Demon's Souls on the PlayStation 3 back in 2019. I was curious to see the spiritual predecessor to the phenomenal Dark Souls series to which I recently proposed, and it certainly was an enjoyable game, and in my mind it mostly held up. Looked a bit rough around the edges, but honestly I can forgive that sort of thing. Demon's Souls, the remake, I finally got to try after my sacrifice to the gods of fortune and dignity led to my successful securing of a PS5 console, which we will discuss shortly. And the question is thus, did I enjoy playing the remake? Yes I did. It was nice to be able to play the game again. Do I, having played the Demon's Souls remake, recommend this title to any game buyers out there? No, not really. As nice as the remake is, it's still very true to the original, and as much as I enjoy the original, I do enjoy the original, it's a very good game. It's not a game though that has aged particularly well. I'm not talking in terms of visuals, though I can't argue it looks a bit rough now, I even said that a minute ago. No, I am talking in terms of mechanics and overall design. Demon's Souls is about a brave demon slayer who fears not death, travelling to the kingdom of Boletaria to do a demon slaying, only to die within the first 5 minutes of their arrival and end up trapped in a state of undeath, a state that can be cured by slaying great demons and eventually by saving the kingdom of Boletaria and the world at large from a slow death by an encroaching army of demons. The first gameplay sequence sees you learn the basic controls before having you thrust into a fight that you're meant to lose, and even if you win, you die moments later anyway, so I wonder why it could have just been a cutscene or something. After that, you wake up in the hub world, and at first you have to clear the outer wall of the Boletarian Palace and defeat a giant poo monster boss, but once that is done, you are then free to level up and explore the rest of the world. Like Dark Souls after it, Demon's Souls is a third-person hack-and-slash action RPG which favours fighting enemies in a one-on-one environment and even has an online co-op section, and some PvP. Look at it go. Incidentally, that was the one thing I didn't get to try on the original because by my time, the servers had shut down. You use checkpoints to travel to and from the hub, enemies respawn when you die, and you have to pick up your souls from your point of death. Where does the game differ then? Well, as I said, for starters you are able to go to any of the game's areas from almost the outset and begin clearing them in whatever order you like. This strikes me as a little bit of a poor design choice though. The issue is, because of this design, all of the areas have to have the same basic difficulty curve. They all have unique challenges for sure, but largely they follow a basic structure of 3 stretches, the first stretch before the first boss, second before the second, and the third is usually a combination of the boss and a stretch of land. Once you've leveled up a bit and taken on the challenges enough times, you realise there isn't really anything to worry about. A few cheap enemies here and there, or a few hazards that are dotted around that you might not notice the first time. The game doesn't quite muster the same challenge as the games it would inspire. I went for ages without dying. I managed to knock out almost every boss I've encountered in a single go. The 2 exceptions are the Storm King, but then that was a minion that got me before he ever even showed up, and then there was that fucking Dragon God who's a massive bellend. Somehow he's a worse bed of chaos, and I didn't even think that was possible. Luckily I got him in the end, but his cheapness was pissing me off. I can't stand these puzzle bosses that don't really test anything that the game has been training about the player up until that point. I mean, I did also get killed fighting that man-eater gargoyle thing and his little friend, but I kinda died because I accidentally rolled off the environment, so I don't think we're really going to count that one. I personally don't. I do want to do some praise here because I feel like I'm coming across as really negative. Me, negative, don't be silly. Unlike in later Souls games, you don't rest at checkpoints to recover healing items, you gather them from enemies as you go, which to me makes it feel more organic and makes the game flow a lot better. It feels more like an adventure, more like you're actually progressing through an area. It's not stopping every 5 minutes to have some Sunny D and a Wii, whilst the enemies get back up and readjust all their shoulder bones. Of course, if you travel away from an area and travel back, all the enemies respawn, and they respawn when you die, but to be honest, that's fine. And because you don't have to rest to get healing items back, I think it's all a bit freer, personally. Again, you're not relying on the checkpoints as much anymore. It feels more like an adventure. I know I just said that, but it does. It does feel more like an adventure, and that's good. Parrying feels more doable and more accurate, and the animations are beautifully weighty and beautifully brutal. The weapons themselves all feel great to use for the most part, and unlike in the original game, you can use multiple souls in your item menu as well. You know how you used to have to do that thing where you individually select them and it closes the menu while you use them? You don't do that anymore, and that's something that Dark Souls Remastered managed to fuck up, so I'm really glad that Demon's Souls didn't do it too. I also want to give a shout out to the visuals. Now, I'm not worried about graphics. I'm not worried about a 60 frames per second frame rate or whatever. As a rule, I just don't care about that sort of thing, but I cannot deny this game looks beautiful. I had to keep stopping and admiring the visuals. I literally smacked my gob a couple of times looking at how the game looked. Looking at how it looked, what a fucking clever sentence that was. Admiring the game's appearance, that one sounds better. Taking full advantage of the photo mode as well, which is a great feature by the way, even if it did cause my game to crash at one point. But to be fair, that was the only bug or glitch or issue I really dealt with in the whole time playing, so I can't really complain too much. And either way, it's the perfect feature for the Souls photographer like myself. The game runs very smoothly. I didn't have any noticeable crashes or glitches aside from the issue regarding the photo mode. But because the PS5 load times are pretty quick, I just had to shut the game down and go back into it, which took very little time, which is fair enough. Functionally, it's perfectly done, and the nice visuals and sound design are the icing on the cake. Again, a few issues here and there, but nothing major, which is good. Now back to what I'm not so keen on. Firstly, the fact that even lighter armor can weigh a character down so much that they're unable to effectively roll unless you massively invest into stamina. That's total bollocks. Also, the weapons upgrade system is, sorry, what was the term? Total bollocks, that's right. You know how it works in Dark Souls where you need Titanite shards up to a certain point for a weapon, then you need large Titanite shards, then you need Titanite chunks, and then finally a slab. Each of these materials replaces the previous requirement. Good system, straightforward, ideal. In Demon Souls you end up needing the small shards, the large shards, the massive shards, the giant shards, the barbecue bacon shards with rice. You know, you need all of the shards, and it's fucking annoying. It's fucking irritating. I can't understand why this decision was made. I also can't understand why it was preserved. It was a dreadful decision. I say dreadful, I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but it's very annoying. I spent ages wandering back and forth just trying to get enough bloody... what do they call it in this game? I think it's Moonshard or something. Just trying to get enough of that to upgrade my fucking Claymore. My main bow is still like level 3 or something because I couldn't find enough materials for it because I had to choose between it and the Claymore. And the Claymore was the thing I was using more. But you really don't do well if you haven't got some sort of ranged weapon equipped. Also, item burden. That can piss off. I can't stand limited inventory space, as this is basically that. Well, not basically, this is that. If it was just slowing you down to a crawl, that would be bad enough, but at least then you can still physically carry shit. In this game, you cannot physically carry shit above your limit, and have to keep sending stuff to your storage, which is at least easy, it's just a press of a button. But with all the shit you need to carry, like weapons, armor, healing items, rings, etc., it can be a mess to have to deal with, and then you have to go back to the hub world and go through your storage just to figure out what you'll need for your next adventure. Also, why no plunging attacks? Where plunging attacks? Demon Souls, why no adding plunging attack? Put plunging attack in the game, arsehole. I get wanting to stay true to the original game as best you can, but I should also point out that, well, we have the original game. It exists. The remake could have and should have done more in my opinion, otherwise you've just spent 60 quid on a shiny version of Demon Souls, and well, I don't think it's worth the money. Oh yeah, that's something else I forgot to whine about, I've only just remembered. I can't find anywhere to sell any of my shit. I don't know if I've missed a person or if it just plumb don't exist or whatever, but I am sick of having so much pointless bullshit crowding up my stockpile. Tons of old weapons and shit that I'll never use because they're the worst weapons in the game. Those dreglings drop their shields and their swords all the time and I can't get rid of them. I suppose I could just leave them behind, not pick them up, but obviously it's a Souls game, you don't know what you're getting when an enemy drops it. Also, I really don't like how when you die you could lose up to half of your maximum HP until you manage to become human again. It can be offset by a ring where you only lose about 20 or 30% of it, but it's still a pain in the ass to have to deal with, and this is what I like to call lazy difficulty. Whinging and bitching aside, believe it or not, I still do rather enjoy Demon Souls as a game. It's mostly an easier experience. Apparently it gets harder if you die too often and the world tendency becomes black. That's something else I should bring up. World tendency, if you die too many times, the world goes from white to black and things get harder, but I didn't really experience this. Apparently I'm decent enough at the game, or I just didn't die that much. All those hours of Dark Souls must have some effect on me after all. In total, it's a less difficult experience than it is obtuse, really. That's just my experience, though. I don't speak for everyone. So do I recommend it? Well, I asked that rhetorical question earlier and said no, and I still say no. I really don't recommend it for two reasons. First of all, it's a PS5 exclusive, and no matter how decent an exclusive game is, I'm starting to think that I cannot recommend a big budget AAA game if it's being held hostage like this, with the cynical intent of selling more of a console. Secondly, Dark Souls exists. Look, Demon Souls was a fun enough game. It's a fun ride, I'm not denying that, but now that I've reviewed it, I don't imagine myself playing it again outside of my Monday streams. By the way, I do game streaming now, be sure to check it out, link in the description. And I mostly think I won't play it much again because all of its ideas and gameplay have been built upon and refined. While I do like certain aspects of its design, I'm certainly not going to completely abandon it. I can't really think of any reason it exists, to be perfectly honest. If you want to see where it all began, I honestly recommend the PS3 version more to anyone with interest. I cannot stress enough that I am not a hater of Demon Souls. I still like Demon Souls, it's still a really good game, it's a fun title. But I honestly can't think of any real reason for the remake to, as I said, exist, when it changed so little where it truly counted, and even if some quality of play changes were were made, its overall structure would probably still give me pause because, well, we just have better games these days. Like I said, the difficulty curve doesn't really change much from world to world because they've all got to be set up in basically the same sort of way, because you can tackle them whenever. And yeah, the individual challenges in the world might be a little more difficult here and there, but not particularly, not consistently. I was breezing through most of the late game areas because they're not really late game areas when you think about it. That said, the final late game area in the big Planetarian Palace was a pain in the fucking ass, but other than that, yeah, it's all fairly straightforward. And now, a brief moment to discuss the PS5 that I recently got my greasy hands on. It's okay. I mean, it's a PS4 with a less intuitive layout and well, it's got a fairly notable performance increase. Not that it matters to me, who never thought the PS4 had any major issues with such things. Hell, even my Xbox One has a decent performance. It's not a great console, but decent performance when it comes to playing games, and that's all I really care about. Honestly, the big ugly Wi-Fi router looking thing feels unnecessary, and I highly doubt I am the only one who thinks this. I highly doubt I'm also the only one who thinks that, well, it could have just not released for like a year or two and we'd all have been fine. I think so. I thought the same about the PS4, and well, I was largely right. As far as I'm concerned, the console didn't get any really good games until about 2016. That's like 3 years after it released. If you are looking for what a PS5 is, well, I promise you it really ain't worth it just yet. I won't tell you how to spend your money. I would argue though that you could get 1,745 or I think a lot more than that Freddo Frogs for the same price, and they'd probably be the better purchase. Did I honestly spend time in this review trying to calculate the amount of Freddo Frogs you'd get? Yeah, I did. Don't even think I got it right.